to my channel, All Things Militia, where I discuss a lot about what's going on in the political world and also topics that pertain to everyday life. If you are subscribed to my channel, thank you so much for your support. As always, I appreciate you guys. Give your girl a thumbs up if you see a video that you like. Leave your comment down below because I want to get your thoughts on what I'm discussing. Share the video, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. You can do all those things, and don't forget to subscribe. So I'm coming on here tonight, you guys. This is going to be a two-part video because I didn't want to condense it and make it long. So I decided to break it up in two parts. And it's going to be along the topic of the 2020 election being stolen. Now, if you've been following political news, you know that the FBI has confirmed that the 2020 election was stolen, which many people already knew. But yeah, personally, you guys, during that election, or prior to that election day, I received so many text messages and phone calls from Democrats, only Democrats, asking me if they can count on my vote and if they can count on me to help them save America from Trump. And I found it odd because I've been voting for years and I've never had an influx of messages like that until that particular election year. So that within itself was, very interesting, you guys. And as you know, in 2020, we had that event that happened where we had the lockdowns after the COVID pandemic. So yeah, many people believe that a lot of this stuff was used and staged to get President Trump out of office. But let's go into this a little bit. The FBI announces 2020 election was stolen and fraud arrests are coming.
Arrests are coming.
We've been obsessed with this story on this channel for quite a while. A Chinese national at the University of Michigan cast an election in the 2024 election. Michigan, of course, a critical swing state. Joe Biden technically won the 2020 election. No, he didn't. But it was Michigan that they were able to rig and that they were able to foist into Biden's column. And that really tipped the scale, right? So Michigan, a critical swing state. Chinese communists voting in the election, charged with voting in the election. The vote counted. I'll just give you if the Chinese Communist Party is telling their people how to vote in America to rig our elections, I'll just give you one guess. Do you think it's for Trump or Kamala Harris? Yeah, okay.
Come on.
That vote counted for Kamala Harris. No takesies, backsies. And then he fled the country. How do you flee the country? Because
they make it available for them to flee the country, just like they make it available for them to come into the country. But yeah, you guys, reportedly, Chinese communist country had people over here voting in our elections in this past election. So I can only imagine how many people were involved in 2020. Now, this past election was different because we had Laura Trump, who was over poll watching. And so the Democrats weren't able to pull the stunt that they pulled in 2020 in 2024. But let's get into this a little bit more, you guys. This is an everyday person giving his take. FBI Director Kash Patel declassified material that alleges China interfered in the 2020 election. And I wouldn't be surprised because, like I said, we had that pandemic that happened where they put us on lockdown because they were so desperate to get Trump out of office. They had to stage an event to shut down the whole economy, and a virus that had a 99% survival rate caused the whole economy to be shut down.
Liberals are doing everything in their power to take Donald Trump down. But for whatever reason, they won't mention this. How about the fact that the FBI director, Kash Patel, has found some alleged evidence that proves that the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, was involved in rigging the 2020 election between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And you know what was always crazy to me? It was a historical moment when Barack Obama became the first black president of the United States of America. People came out in record numbers to vote for him. Yep. But what you mean to tell me is Joe Biden, crooked, sleepy Joe, was able to attain more votes than Barack Obama? You're going to have to prove that to me.
Okay.
What was it in Joe Biden's policy that made more people vote for him than vote for historical setting Barack Obama?
Orange
I'm trying
man
to tell you
mad.
because it was probably some type of fraud in there, probably some type of rigging going on. But now that Cash Patel has found some, this is alleged evidence that can prove that they were creating fake licenses to help people register to vote, they better find it. They better be able to prove that evidence because it's going to show y'all that it was rigged. And Trump should have won back in 2020.
Yep. Should have won back in 2020, you guys. But you know, some people pretty much said that they are happy that it played out the way that it did because we were able to further see how corrupt the government is and how far the lying, corrupt media would go to try to cover up the corruption of the government. So yeah, you know, everything happens for a reason. Let's get into this. He said that the Chinese Communist Party was involved in our election. You know, when they were saying it was all Russia, 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 they ran that Russia collusion hoax during Trump's first term for many months in the media saying Trump colluded with Russia to steal the 2016 election from Hildebeest. Okay, and then that was found to be false and the media went crickets on it. And nobody ever was charged for that. But yeah, we're finding out how China played a role in our elections. Let's see.
Georgia's governor has come under fire again, this time over his alleged relationship with China. In a series of tweets, Trump lawyer Linwood accuses Governor Brian Kemp of loving communist China. Of the videos he posted, one stands out.
China is a top source for imports and our third largest export market.
Yeah, I'm sure they are a top source of imports. Imports of voter fraud. Okay?
We welcome thousands of Chinese visitors every year to the Peach State, and we are constantly helping to develop new opportunities for Chinese companies.
The video.
You know, this is not, you know, this isn't a surprise to me, you guys. You put two and two together. COVID came from China, reportedly. Then we have the lockdowns. And if you've been following political news, you know that the former corrupt senile president and his crackhead son were reportedly involved in a lot of shady business with China and other countries, selling out our country. So they couldn't take President Trump having 2 consecutive terms because he was in there shaking up some things. He was breaking up that establishment of corruption. So let's get into this a little bit more, you guys. This is Joe Biden during the 2020 election, you know, that was not completed on election day. You know, it carried over for several days because they had to try to get votes, because when I went to bed, President Trump was up in all of the remaining states with the majority of the vote count in. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, when I woke up the next morning, everything had flipped over to blue. Let's listen to this. Whatever.
My fellow Americans yesterday once again proved that democracy is the heartbeat of this nation. Just as it has been the heartbeat of this nation for 2 centuries. And even in the face of a pandemic, more Americans voted this election than ever before in American history. Over 150 million people.
I'm sorry, you guys. Less than half of the country that voted in this election. What was so special about this vegetable that made, even if you want to say, oh well, we would have taken anyone other than Trump. No, Barack Obama was considered the first black president, even though he wasn't fully black. His mom was white, his dad was Kenyan, but nonetheless, that was an historic, you know, presidency, because for the first time in our country, we had experienced a man with, you know, diverse ethnic, you know, that was multiracial, that was able to obtain the office. Now I'm questioning him. But at any rate, what made Biden more special than Obama? And why wasn't Biden able to pull those same votes again in 2024?
Cast their votes. I think that's just extraordinary. And if we had any doubts, we shouldn't have any longer about a government of, by, and for the people. It's very much alive.
Yeah.
Very much alive in America. Here, the people rule. Power can't be taken or asserted.
Really?
It flows from the people.
Really?
And it's their will that determines who will be the president of the United States, and their will alone. And now, after a long night of counting,
Look at this
it's
smirk.
clear
A
that
long
we're
night of
winning
counting.
enough states.
After we stopped the vote count so we can make up for where we were lacking because Trump was so far ahead, we had to literally stop the count to try to make up votes. Okay, and I'm going to do a part 2, you guys. So if you can follow up on the part 2, I'm going to show proof more so of voter fraud. But just interesting.
To reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners.
Yeah, I know you do believe you'll be the winner. You know why? Because y'all cheated. That's why. Then started censoring people left and right that were coming forth with proof and evidence saying that there was no fraud. Said he was the most open and transparent administration, his administration, but then was calling people election deniers that was questioning the election. If you're open and transparent, you don't mind being questioned. You don't mind giving up evidence. You don't mind showing and proving. But they didn't do that. They even used social media giants like Facebook, now Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, and Twitter, sorry, you guys, Twitter, now, what's Twitter called? X. They even used them to censor people that had proof and could show proof that there was voter fraud. And then when it started coming out that there was fraud, all of a sudden then the story changed to no fraud to there wasn't enough fraud to influence the outcome of the election. These people are full of shit. I'm sorry, I just have to say it the way I feel it. And this is more proof of that.
Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
There you go, right out of the horse's mouth. Right out of the horse's mouth. And I read some comments and people were saying this is the first honest thing he ever said. I believed him then and I believe him now. There's no other explanation of the results. The first time he's been honest and said something with conviction. He didn't stumble and try to correct himself because there's no one there to tame him yet. Someone needs to run this on a loop somewhere. Saying the quiet part out loud. Most important Freudian slip, you guys help me out. I always mix that word up. In American political history. Yeah, we knew that election was not right. And even when I was driving around my city, I saw a billboard with President Trump's head down, because you know they always have to try to get a picture to go with their narrative, saying he lost. Why would you have to go out of your way to try to prove he lost if he lost? Okay, what's the point of going out of your way to try to prove it? And why was there a term election denier? And why was he charged for questioning the election? It don't even make sense. You should have a right to question something if you don't think it was done legitimately. But part 2 is coming to this, you guys. That's my thoughts right now for this one. Let me know yours in the comment section, and I will see you in a moment.